Hey, just before we start this 5-minute quickie, I wanted to answer a couple of questions that have been asked of me by email. And I thought I've obviously answered them, but I wanted to answer them again on this podcast. As I love these two questions actually came from, we'll call her Mary. Hello, Mary. And where that came from, I don't know. But the first one was, can I listen to the hypnosis tracks more than once? In fact, it was over and over again. And the answer to that is, of course you can. In fact, there are people who suggest that you listen to their own hypnosis tracks over a period of 30 days, one day after the other. And I tend to agree with that, but I like to be more flexible in the way that I think each time you re-listen to a hypnosis track, you're in a slightly different place. Therefore, you'll take on different things. And that hypnosis track will serve you for what you need at that particular time. It's like when you reread a book, you have the information that you learned at the first time you read that book that you didn't have when you read it. So now with that information, you're freer to see the things that maybe you didn't quite understand and now you do. Therefore, you get something different and more from that book. And the other question was, and it referred to the hypnosis track, I know it's hash 2.1 on my podcast listing. So it's this very second podcast I ever did. And it was all about being comfortable. And it's a lovely Ericksonian hypnosis track. And it's based around a Ericksonian process. Ericksonian was Milton Erickson, a famous hypnotherapist back in the good old days. And again, what would happen if you listened to it more than once? Well, what I'd like to suggest is that, yes, you do listen to it more than once, because it has a number of examples in it where you go in your mind and you test this being comfortable. So if you have a particular issue that's going on at this particular time, something you haven't dealt with yet, you could use those as your example to go through and get your unconscious mind to learn how to be comfortable in those particular issues. So it's reusable, it's recyclable. You can use it as many times as you like, same issues or different issues, because you'll always have an opportunity to grow and just get better. And that's what they're for. So thank you, Mary, for asking those two questions. So I do suggest, if you haven't listened to that hypnosis track, or listen to the second podcast about being comfortable and then hypnosis for being comfortable, it's a great one that I teach my clients when they used to have panic attacks and things like that. That's how powerful that process can be, to let go of panic attacks and get your unconscious mind really understanding what it can do. Anyway, if that's something that you really, really like, then go do it and ask as many questions as you like. Please email me, paul@paulclough.co.uk. I'll answer them the best I can, whether it's via email or during one of the shows. Okay? So anyway, on with the show.
Personal development, unplugged.
Hey, welcome back to the 5-minute quickie with me, Paul Clough. Today, in 5 minutes, I want to ask you a quite an important question, I guess, about your personal development, your journey, as some people boringly say, but your adventure in this learning and making yourself the best person, the best you could really be. And the question is, well, it's in two ways, really. What have you learnt? And obviously Jenny Journal comes in here now. Jenny Journal, maybe just mind map or brain dump, or just on a whole, open that book out and use the whole 2 sides and just make some notes of the things that you've learned. So the different skills. You might want to do it in different contexts, but just recognize the things you've learned. Then you don't have to have learnt them 100%. You may be on your adventure of learning a particular thing. So I'm, 3/4 of the way through learning this, or I've learnt that, and I'm now looking to expand this, or I've understand this now, or these are some processes. If you're maybe a therapist or an NLP practitioner, these are some new processes I can use and I understand, or maybe I'm developing something and that's come from this skill and that skill. Or maybe I have changed the way I feel. Because we don't all have to learn these processes to be able to use them all the time. We use some of the processes, say, from this 5-minute quickie or the longer podcast, and go, do you know what? I've found out a way how I can change my state from feeling to absolutely brilliant, and I can do it in short steps or big jumps, and I can do that. Or I can learn about perceptual positions to understand other people. So now I can understand other people. That's another skill. That's what I've learned. So we're just re-remembering the things that we didn't know and now we do know. The things that we do use that we didn't used to use. The things that we understand that before we didn't understand. So just a lovely way of just dumping it on a lovely piece of paper and go, wow. When you look at it, wow, so much. And then there's the second part of this. The second, I think, equally as important question is, so what are you going to do with it? Do you use it really? That's like two questions, but it's all around the same thing. And again, I understand this, I've learned this, but do I use it? So look at that page. Which ones do I really use? Or maybe, what can I do with this is, well, I use it so well now, I can share it. And as I share it, there's one thing about learning something. If you can teach somebody it, that's really learning it. Because it just is. When you explain something to somebody and you teach them it, you're really getting into that subject matter, really understanding it, really nailing it home. So how can you use this? What can I do with it? Maybe it's a skill that you learned that you don't necessarily have to share, but you can use more of it. Maybe I've learned this wonderful way of making people feel comfortable, but do I use it enough? How can I work out ways in my mind that will trigger off this wonderful skill? So maybe I've got to find a way that writing it down or putting it on my phone to come as an alarm or just as a reminder. You're meeting so-and-so. Remember that rapport skill. Let's get curious. You can find wonderful ways that you can use sticky notes and all that stuff to reinforce these things. But isn't it interesting how much you've learned and how much you use? Because I think sometimes you'll be shocked. I know there's a lot of things I've learned that I don't necessarily keep practicing to make them permanent. And I'm going to. So a lot of this is all about the things that are reminding me that I need to do. And if I did them, I know they'd create wonderful ripples of change in not just me and everything I do, but in other people. And if you do that too, those ripples will become into wonderful, wonderful tides of change. That was a metaphor and a half, wasn't it? Hey. So get our Jenny journal out. Let's remind ourselves where we've come from, where we've been, and what we know and do now differently. What are our new skills? Because sometimes we just forget, or we take them for granted. And when we remember, we can then set new rituals, as it were, to use them more often. When you use them more often, as I said, practice makes permanent. Because here's a short little story. I remember in the early days of my learning NLP, I set up this wonderful anchor. So when I did this particular movement with my hands, that I would go into this wonderful process of getting rapport, matching people, mirroring people, listening to the sound of their voice, their predicates, all these different ways of being. And that would create a wonderful rapport with those people. And what a wonderful thing to do. Set your own rapport button, make them feel that they're really liked, and then I would like them, they would like me, things were going well. And then I remember once I was going into this meeting and I met with this one particular guy. And I came away from that meeting and I went, oh no, I had a Homer moment, not the prophecy stoicician type man, but Homer, I hadn't fired off my anchor before that meeting. But then I thought, hang on a minute, Paul, you've just had a wonderful meeting. You have been genuinely friendly. You have been, well, actually was matching and mirroring a little bit. But we were so in tune with each other that we've had a wonderful meeting. It wasn't a win-lose. In fact, I think he got more out of it than I did because I wanted to give him more out of it. But the business was going to get better for me. And it was as if I'd practiced it so much by firing off that anchor, it was a mere thought now. Going into a meeting or meeting somebody new, my rapport skills would become natural. Mastery, knowing what you do, doing what you know, consciously and unconsciously. And therefore, it's just sometimes remembering and then going, oh, wow, I'm actually doing it anyway. Or could I do it more? Oh, damn, I don't do this. I'm going to do some more. Anyway, that's something for you to think about. Do get Jenny Journal out and have more fun than you can stand and start using all those skills, not just some of them, all of them. Make them even more better. This is slightly longer than the 5-minute quickie because it's going to be about 8 or 9 minutes long, this little diddly-do, as we call them in the trade. Well, in my trade, in my head. So have more fun than you can stand and live with a lot of passion. Bye-bye. Hey, just a couple of reminders before you go, if that's okay. The first one is, do have a little glance, if you would, at my other website, paulcloughonline.com. It's got my first program of allowing your unconscious mind to let go of anxiety. It's called Free Your Life of Anxiety. The first 5 days are absolutely free. And I think you'll find, even in those first 5 days, you're going to find so much more. And there's a lot more to get out of that as well. So just have a flick through if you would. There's a couple of hypnosis tracks and things like that. But I'll give you more details in another podcast. And also, this is all about generative field of learning and sharing in that generative field. So if you have found this or any of the other podcasts of interest to you and of benefit, please do share them with your friends. It's how this podcast keeps going with people listening, because that's what it's all about. Okay, so please do that, and we'll have a wonderful life together, creating a wonderful world and growing together. So enjoy every heartbeat. Bye-bye now.
Personal development, unplugged.